Zeal Education Society, redefining excellence.
Good morning, this is sonal from SYCO currently studying in Zeal Polytechnic. Our topic name is Classify Analog and Digital Modulation Technique. First of all, let's see what's analog signal and digital signal. An analog signal is a continuous signal that changes over a time period, and a digital signal uses discrete values to represent the information. Let's see what's the diagram of analog and digital signal. Analog signal is represented in a sine wave and a digital signal is represented in a square wave. Let's see what's modulation. Modulation, it is the process of encoding information from the message source in a way of transmission. Need for modulation in communication system. The message signals have a very low frequency due to which the signals cannot be transmitted over a long distance. Hence, such low-frequency message signals are modulated over the high-frequency carrier signal due to the following reason: practical length of antenna, narrow banding of the signal, frequency multiplexing, and effective power of radiated by the antenna. Our modulation is subdivided into two parts: analog modulation and digital modulation. And analog modulation is subdivided into three parts: amplitude modulation, frequency modulation, and phase modulation. And in case of digital modulation, it is divided into three parts: shift keying modulation, amplitude shift key, the frequency shift key, and phase shift key modulation. What's analog modulation? Analog modulation refers to the process of transferring an analog baseband signal like an audio or a TV signal over a higher frequency such as an radio. Analog modulation is further divided into three types: amplitude modulation, frequency modulation, and phase modulation. What is amplitude modulation? AM is a type of analog modulation in which the amplitude of the higher frequency carrier signal is changing with respect to the instantaneous amplitude of the modulating signal. What's the advantages of AM? AM transmitters have a simple design. Due to high power, AM signals have a long range of transmission. What's disadvantages of AM? Because the information is stored in the amplitude of the modulated signal, which is affected by the noise in the medium. AM need high frequency for transmission. Applications for amplitude modulation. Because it's long range, it can be used for radio broadcasting and it can be used for television broadcasting also. What is frequency modulation? In FM, the frequency of the carrier signal varies with respect to the instantaneous amplitude of the modulating signal. Advantages of FM: FM modulated signal is immune to the noise, as noise only affects the amplitude of the signal and the information is stored as the frequency of the signal. What's disadvantages of FM? FM signal covers large bandwidth as compared to the AM signal. The design of FM transmitters and receivers are very complex. Applications of FM. FM is used widely in FM radio broadcasting. What's phase modulation? The process in which the phase of the carrier signal varies with the instantaneous amplitude of the modulating signal is called phase modulation. Advantages of PM. PM is simply contrasted to frequency modulation. It is used to find out the velocity of the target by removing Doppler data. Disadvantages of PM. PM arrives if we exceed index P radian of modulation, and PM index can be enhanced by employing frequency multiplier. Application of PM. PM is widely used for transmitting radio waves and it is integral part of any digital transmission coding schemes that underlie a wide range of the technologies like Wi-Fi, GSM, and satellite televisions. What's digital modulation? Digital modulation provides more information capacity, high data security, quicker system availability with great quality communication. Hence, a digital modulation techniques have a great demand for the capacity to convey a large amount of data than analog modulation techniques. There are different further divided by digital modulation: amplitude shift keying, frequency shift keying, and phase shift keying. What's amplitude shift keying? A type of amplitude modulation which represents the binary data in the form of variation in the amplitude of the signal. What's advantages of amplitude shift keying? It can be used to transmit digital data over optical fiber. The receiver and the transmitter have a simple design which also makes it comparatively inexpensive. Disadvantages of amplitude shift keying: it has a lower power efficiency. Frequency shift keying. In this modulation, the frequency of analog carrier signal is modified to reflect binary data. What's advantages? Frequency shift keying a modulated signal can help avoid the noise problems beset by ASK. It has a lower chances of an error. Disadvantages of frequency shift keying. It uses larger bandwidth as compared to the ASK, thus it offers large bandwidth efficiency. It has a lower power efficiency. Phase shift keying. In this modulation, the phase of the analog carrier signal is modified to reflect binary data. Advantages of phase shift keying. It is more efficient modulation technique as compared to ASK and FSK. It has a lower chances of an error. What's disadvantages? It offers low bandwidth efficiency. The detection and recovery algorithms of binary data is very complex and it is non-coherent in reference signals. What's conclusion? Hence, we get to know about the modulation and its type, digital modulation and analog modulation, their classification, and what's references is given below. And
Zeal Education Society, redefining excellence.